All right, we're live. Gary, take it away. We're live.
Like I was just saying, you tell your doctor when to Happy Wednesday, everybody. I always hated when Ernie said that. What? I don't know why. It's true. Hey, no, sign in. So I'm going to sign in. Not too sure what. Today, because we're going to do a kind of a round robin on what's really bothering you with the contract, what's bothering you about me. Oh, there it goes. Okay, you guys, stop telling it. Remember my login.
Make me smarter. Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
The holiday crowd. Saturday morning. Thing is really hauling.
Oh,
So what do you do?
class is over.
You do that, right? I feel like I'm fat dumb fucker. Okay, you guys click this right here. Never, and it'll quit saving logins. Everybody's login is like in a row.
No, it just doesn't say the password.
Yeah, it does. Whoever that was logged in last. I gotta just hit go.
No, but it never just doesn't say your password.
Right.
I just logged in. I just logged in MLS. Required me to change my password.
Yeah, they've been after me to do that for, and then the required password change. So I fat thumbed it. Thank God they send you. They have a screen pop up that goes, "Here's your login. Here's your new password," because I had spelled it wrong. Again, I'm not going to go back and change it. It's an even smarter password than I thought. It's spelled wrong.
You gotta change it every 12 months.
You know, like what's the math on that, right? When did we launch the Matrix? April. That's the second password. That's the second 12-month password change. Like, yeah, we got it for 8 months. Like, what?
Morning.
Security. It's a security thing.
What are we working on today?
We're going to kind of round robin it. So I hear.
Open forum.
It's kind of a,
Bring your
thank you.
problems
That's a
to
better
Gary
thing.
today.
Open forum. You can pick on my tie, whatever you want.
I can't today.
So, hey, one of the first things I think I'll show you is while we're in zipforms. We just had a forms release, right? Yes, everybody knows they just changed a bunch of your forms, right? Like a bunch of them. They change a bunch all the time now. They used to be really careful with that. They change them. They were careful about changing them. They did it. We had revision dates twice a year. We usually didn't get a revision because they had to print them. Well, they don't have to print them now. They just write code and like, yeah, let's change the form. Let's change the spacing. Let's change the punctuation. Let's change stuff. So they change stuff all the time now. They do silent revisions throughout the year where you surprise you open a form and you go, I don't remember it looking like that. Or like happened to me one time with the SPRP, I read the checkboxes wrong. Can't remember who that. I don't know if that was Mondays or who. No, it was after. Yeah. Like, wait, what? So, right over here. Here? Right there. Whenever there's a form update, I guess they didn't launch it yet.
12/15?
I think they did. Yeah, that would be December of 2015, right? Yeah, so we're looking for the 12/17 revision date. So the June updates were right there. Apparently the other one didn't hit yet. Well, good enough. So if you want to see what the new forms are, one of the easiest ways to do it when you're in zipforms is just click that. You're in the CAR library, California Association of Realtors library. Go over here to where it usually says Alt, and you just tell it.
I didn't know there was
update you're looking
I didn't know there was a bed bug update.
Yeah, I was looking at that too. Bed bug disclosure.
Yeah, for property management.
Yeah, there was some legislation. Yeah. That's all the cool stuff you learn when you go to the CAR business meetings. Like, let's talk about that.
Gary, have you talked about the additional agent acknowledgement?
No, I have. I don't think I have.
It's kind of obscure.
Well, and there's a pair of them, right? Yeah, we had 2 or 3 teams when I was working for Ernie. We use them all the time. And it's pretty good form. There's the additional agent acknowledgement and the additional broker acknowledgement. Am I in a transaction? Yeah. Additional agent helped with, we're a team. And Noah and I are a team, and we got a client, and like who's doing what for who, when, and who can sign, and what's going on, and all that stuff. So the additional agent acknowledgement helps with that. So when you have two agents from your office in a transaction, that form should be in there. In fact, it probably needs to line up on the checklist. Did it work?
Additional agent acknowledgement.
Additional agent acknowledgement. I'll put the other one in there.
But that's only if multiple agents are working on one side of the deal, right? Or is it?
Correct. You are correct. Why did you say that? Because that's a set of mouthful there. Set of mouthful. That was good information. So why did you say that?
Because you said, if two people, who signs for what and this and that. I mean, usually it's already disclosed. If it's dual agency, you still have representation of the seller, representation of the buyer, and they each sign their own stuff. Whereas if you're differentiating, it's one side or the other, where there's multiple agents.
Right. Exactly.
That
That
was
was
my
this
thought.
form would be if there was more than one
Like a
agent
team,
on one
Yeah.
side.
sharing a listing or.
Excuse me, Karen, there was a situation where, and this came up, I referred out to someone, and she was out of town, and she said, you might have to sign off on remove the contingency for your mortgage for that. I was wondering, could I?
That you might sign off?
I'm not even in the same agency.
Right.
Would I be able to do that?
No. You're not in that deal. We're not in that deal.
Right, I
Hubbell's
didn't think
not
so,
in that
I just
deal.
let it go because
Yeah.
it didn't come about anyway,
Yeah.
so it wasn't likely, but I
And
thought
where
it was
did she
strange
work?
she asked.
Where did she work?
Never mind.
Because we just need to know who to keep an eye on. It's like, oh, you got an offer from, oh. Make sure you read everything twice because there's going to be some boo-boos in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird, how could I do that?
Now you could. You'd have to become part of that deal. We'll get to that for a minute. So the additional agent acknowledgement right here, and I'm using a transaction. Ben should have been in, but he quit showing it. Just saying. All right. This is an addendum to the purchase agreement or the listing agreement. We used to do that with Linda and Stacy all the time. They were co-listants or listing stuff. Linda Dell had in Trilogy quite a bit. So when they came out with this form, we started using it all the time. So it says, check one. Now see here, it's make sure the signature. Yeah, you might have to use it twice, right? So you got a team. So let's say Linda and Noah are a team, and they take a listing, right? Okay.
Taking them all.
They take all.
Taking them one at a time. They're taking a listing. All right. Okay. Fine. Check one. All right. Which one? A or B?
Seller, eh?
Hey. Multiple associate licensees, because you're all associate licensees in the company, working with the seller. I'm going to name all you people right down here and put your license number. Licensees below have entered into a separate written agreement to share responsibility and compensation for certain real estate license activity and inform broker of or give a broker a copy of that separate written agreement. That never used to happen because we didn't have a form. Now we do, right? Get to that in a minute.
Did you skip over 2A?
I did. Yeah. I guess I didn't realize I was going to go through the whole thing I started. Right? And that's it was set up. They did a lot of stuff for teams. What happened? That's where this form came from. That's where the what the hell is that other? Yeah, remember the name of the other form for when you're a team and you make an agreement between each other? We'll have to find it. So we'll look at that in a minute. So anyway, number 2, real estate licensees named below, which is C, are under the same broker, so real estate broker name. You can put this in your template. You can put Hubbell in there because that's all part of it out. Throw your names down here in C. So, and if you have a team name like who does, like Ashley and those guys, Pismo Beach Homes team, that goes in there. And that harkens back to the agreement probably. And all the names go down there. And basically you have in this case would be well, you can get everybody on it. So if we're working with the seller, we're having the seller sign this form that realizes that they could be seeing Noah, and everybody in the transaction could be seeing Noah or Linda's signature on anything in there. Sharing responsibility, sharing signatures, sharing compensation. And that's when you got a team inside the office. Questions?
So if Noah's working with another agent from another brokerage, there's another form for that.
There's another form for
I was
that.
gonna say that there's multiple, like different agencies.
So you don't want us doing that,
I'll accept it.
Gotta be right here.
We'll look at it. We'll look at it. It's legal. It's legal.
Yeah, it's called co-listing. Yeah, this is the really how co-listing is supposed to work. Because Noah and Linda listed a house, that's not really a co-listing. That's just two people working the same deal. Co-listing is you list with
Keller Williams.
I've done it with Keller Williams wants to co-list some because for some reason they can't handle it. They got some weird thing going on they think I can do, so I just co-list with them. And it's similar form, but it talks about instead of two agents being able to perform the responsibilities, talks about brokers. So co-listing brokers. One there, broker one, broker two. And they're, so this one, this is gonna go with the listing agreement and everything, right? When you're co-listing with somebody else, the additional broker acknowledgement takes off right from the get-go. One of them's for sellers, one box is for buyers, but everybody's on here. So I don't know, I guess that's a company policy thing to figure out if you want to just keep reusing the same form. I guess you could if you wound up double ending the deal. You guys figure that out.
So I didn't miss something here. You can do this with Hubbell and Keller Williams together?
Yep.
Two
Yeah, when
members
it's,
from two different companies?
If Bob.
It's Bob, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
when it's the
yeah,
additional
yeah.
broker acknowledgement, when they say we Keller Williams. Now the other thing to watch out for there is if they want to co-list with you, let's say, I don't know who, somebody in Bakersfield wants to co-list something, they can't if they're not a member of our MLS. You can't list anything in an MLS if you're not a member.
But we could if we're both with Hubbell and I had something in Bakersfield.
Because there's potential for problems. So let's talk.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, but I mean, legally,
Yes.
Like-
legally.
what's her name's over there in Bakersfield. If I had something in Bakersfield, we could co-list together.
Well, that's just what Gary said.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're not a member of that. If you were a member of that MLS, you could co-list with her. Yeah, if you're not a member of the MLS, you can't. Then what is it?
So the office is a member, but the agent has to also.
Agent has to be a member, right? You'll see that all the time, especially when Magic was going to branch out into the coast. Debbie Banducci just listed everything, which is against the MLS rules. The agent that's on that contract has to be a member of the MLS. So they were just kind of pretending.
Why
What
is that
situations?
I mean, the broker's the one that's getting paid, so if he's a member of the board, why do we have to be?
If he's representing the client, that's fine. But if you have actions on behalf of that broker. So when you do stuff, that's you're representing the broker, and you can't represent the broker in that MLS if you're not in that MLS. That's what we went around and around with Debbie Banducci listed everything on behalf of people that weren't members over here. And Ernie was doing it for a while too, as long boat. We were kind of getting back and forth between
So
the
people that
MLS.
we have here that are like showing homes in Santa Maria that aren't a member of that board, we need to join.
Yeah, if you're gonna do business down there, for crying out loud, just join. I mean, every time I get the bill, I'm like, am I really working down there? And someday maybe they'll figure that out. That's a whole other discussion.
So,
So back on track.
Pine Mountain, I can take a listing in Pine Mountain even though I don't belong to that MLS.
Yeah, you just can't put it in their MLS. Yeah, you can take a listing anywhere in California, you just can't put it in their MLS
Gotcha.
unless you join.
What situations arise where you have different brokerages coming together to co-list? Like when would I come across that I would,
I've come across it.
Rare.
Yeah, it's going to be unusual. One of the first deals I ever did was a co-list. In fact, we turned it into a referral. But it was somebody working for T. Hare down in San Ynez, and he had a subdivision up here he wanted to sell, and I knew a guy that knew the owners like really well, and they're like, no, you got to use our guy. I was brand spanking new, and they said, you know what, you let Chuck hang around. So we co-listed it, but we were both members up here. So T. Hare and wherever the hell I was working, Realty World South County co-listed Dune Lakes.
In your case, we did a referral.
Just to be referral, we wanted to co-list though. Yeah.
Well, it's like
outside.
That's where I was going with that. If you can't co-list, then it just turns into a referral. And I've done a lot of 50% referrals. Like you can't co-list, but you know, if our deal is you're in for half, then it's just a half.
Well, and sometimes like with me, I had a team relationship when I was at CCRG with Betty Lou, and I left just as we had some stuff going on. So it's like, should have been able to co-list here, but it's up to the broker whether they let you take the listing or not. So if they had, then we would have co-listed it with Hubbell and CCRG.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I mean, I guess if the brokers are okay with it, but really who's it up to if they want to let you
With a
co-list?
client.
Seller, yeah. Seller says, no, we still want Linda. It's like, well, Linda's new company needs to check into co-listing.
No, the seller is the broker.
Then you have then which form?
Yeah, I'll talk to Dave, but I think I like the referral, 50%.
Cleaner.
Less potential for problems.
You're splitting off.
Yeah, because you refer it out and then you're like, your arm's length and you got mailbox money and it's the same size check. In fact, I just did that on my 4905 Wasden Road. The buyer started thinking his agent couldn't get it done and he thought I could, so she just referred him in. So I gave her whole half and just did the deal.
And don't forget, referrals are negotiable. You can negotiate.
Yeah, right. There's no
It's not a 25.
set amount, 20, customarily kind of a
But
25.
if you do that, you should still get it in writing as who's expected to do what, because that'll come back and bite you in the butt.
Well, if it's a referral, they're expected to do nothing.
Yeah.
They're out of that deal. So you represent the buyer if they refer you the buyer, and in that case, you referred me the buyer. So that's my buyer. I'm representing that buyer. I double ended the deal. But I just gave her half on it because she would have got it anyway if the guy wouldn't have flipped out. I got it. Real things. Turned out he was real easy to work with. I don't know what that all happened. These things happen. So that's the additional broker acknowledgement for co-listing. And what I kind of want to find is what if I spelled that with like 2 E's? Anybody other? Oh, look at popped right up. Is that all we got?
So can I ask you, okay, this is only on the listing, so if you're sending a buyer.
What's only on the listing?
If you're referring it, you're referring a listing to another agent.
You mean referring a seller? Yeah, because you refer people. Right? You refer
You're
people.
referring your clients.
Yeah, it's like, think
referring
of doctors, the
my
way they do
client.
it. It's like they refer patients, you refer clients.
Okay, I referred my client for his house to be sold in Bakersfield.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
And,
perfect.
so we negotiated, so I would have been able to gotten 50% of that.
No.
Not impossible. I mean, that's not
The example
impossible.
that
Who are
use
you
is
working
like
with?
if you have like a team, like you're splitting a listing, like say you work for different companies or something, and then you agree to 50% referral instead of having that agreement.
Could you ask for 50%?
You could.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
But they
I'm in
give you
for half.
50%.
And that agent over there is gonna go, so you, am I gonna be looking for you every Monday morning? So you can come to Bakersfield, we can go on this deal, you gonna earn that 50%? Like, you know what? No, I am not. In
So if you're
fact,
referring the seller.
here's
to
20, keep me out of it.
So a buyer it works the same way, if you're referring a buyer.
Refer a client, yeah.
Yeah,
Client.
Buy, sell, whatever, yeah.
Okay.
So the next form we'll look at is a referral agreement, obviously.
I have two that I'd like you to look over to.
Okay, so let's take a look at
Comments
this guy.
about that commission sharing agreement. I just did a policy change and I sent it out to everybody, everybody saw it.
Oh my God,
We
this
had a
thing's
problem-
huge.
We had a problem with a couple of our agents where everything was verbal. Well, I'll give you X amount, and it was verbal, nothing in writing. So if ever you have an agreement between any of the agents within
Okay.
our office, this form that I prepared,
Okay.
everything's in writing.
Everything's in writing because two reasons. One of them was really famous. The other one is everything involving commissions is in writing because why?
It's not enforceable.
Not enforceable. To be enforceable, a commission agreement has to be in writing under the statute of frauds. I pay you 6% to sell my house unless I change my mind.
Well, actually, there was, and who was it? Was it Gov that said that? There were agents that had a verbal commission
Right.
agreement.
That's what I said. Well, there's one case that was like super famous that was basically the parent of this farm. Right? You want to talk about that? You could.
No, you can't.
I was hoping you
Interview
remember.
you.
You brought it up a lot, so I said when it was happening.
I'd like to hear.
Yes.
I wish I could just Google it. So for homework, you can Google
You
it.
can go to the car site and pull it up. They have like the legal cases there.
Since it's open forum.
No, we have
The hell is it?
potential
Oh, there
for
you are,
problem
buddy.
in this office that took care of.
Who was it?
No, the rest of us.
Well, you and I have a referral agreement.
Yeah, but we did it on paper and everything too. Yeah.
So you can look at car or Google it or whatever and figure that out. But what happened was, and it was like some multi-million-dollar deal. So there's two guys at Keller Williams, and they were like, Keller's like, oh, that's the team. Everybody be a team. If you don't have a team, like, I don't know what to do with you. You're some kind of social cripple. God knows what. But so get a team, be on a team, like, and then it just made nothing but trouble when they started that. So we had to wrap a bunch of forms around it and stuff. But so these two guys were working, I think it was two guys, if I remember,
Yeah.
working at Keller Williams, I don't know where, probably Beverly Hills, because it was high dollar stuff, which is what people fight about, right? You stole my mobile home escrow. Here's your $100, like whatever. Oh my God. You know what? You can have them all from here on out. It's in writing. Like you never. So these guys they had a verbal commission agreement. So one of them left Keller and went somewhere else, and I don't remember. He had another broker when he went somewhere else. And what I don't remember is what happened with the commission. But later, this like $10 million deal closed, and the guy's like, "Where's my half?" And Keller's going like, "What half? That's our half, baby. I'm the broker." Yeah.
The new broker had to pay it.
Right? Yeah, because the
It was
guy.
enforceable.
It wasn't forced.
So that's where all this stuff came from, commission sharing agreement, and all that, so that, like they
That's
say all
why
the
the
time,
broker should have the policy to have everything in writing.
conflicts arise when expectations differ, and expectations are only as good as your memory unless somebody wrote it down, and no one remembers anything the same as you, ever. Who's married? Anybody? Just saying.
Yes.
It's good.
All right, cool. So, while we're at that, so let's just look at the referral agreement for a minute, because I get this question a lot. I just got it the other day, in fact. And look at this little old, just tried and true form hanging in there. You guys see the revision date on that form? 1998. We have not had to fix it. It's just so good. So the key to the referral form is, who am I and what am I doing? So you got to remember that there's a referring broker and a recipient broker. You got to keep those straight in your head, right? So when you're referring your client out, you're the referring broker. So you have a place at the top there that says, I'm selling my client to somebody else for a fee. The recipient broker is receiving the client, paying the fee, doing all the work, and collecting the lion's share of the commission. Copy. Yeah, see, even every time I look at this form, I got to think for a minute. We said this one. And this is one of those times where I've told you guys, I think over the past, when you see a signature line and it says broker, you sign it. It's all right, no big deal. When you see it says broker or office manager, you can't sign it. You can't liable the company for giving away this commission. It has to be the broker. Just like your escrow commission instructions, all that stuff, that's all broker signature stuff. Ellen used to have a stamp.
So when you fill
Ellen,
out
sure.
that, and you're talking to the other agent, you only give your information, you don't give anything from the actual client you're referring, right?
Everything. You're
Well,
referring them.
when you get the agreement. agreements.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, you gotta get it signed first with the commissions or the
Yeah, you
percentage.
don't give them the name of the client.
Exactly, yeah, until they send you the acceptance.
Actually, what I
How do
do-
you negotiate?
I negotiate the
I
whole
have the-
thing before I ever
Yeah,
pop
I
this
have
form.
a conversation with them, and then if they agree to the referral fee agreement, then it's like I fill out the form, send it over to them, have them sign it. And it has like everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't know your client from Adam's off Fox on a referral deal. I mean, you're probably in another town or some otherwise. Why are you referring?
But I mean, you're just, it's how it went when we did it, so that's why I'm asking.
It's a good idea.
Um,
Okay, you're on this side of the river now, Naomi. It's
Okay, so it's the
Communicate by
email,
email.
okay,
Get it in writing,
that
yeah.
gets it in writing and you know.
Well,
that
yeah,
they've
email-
agreed,
email's
so
good.
saving you-
For paper trail.
Okay.
That's why I tell people all the time, stop calling me for crying out loud. You send me an email because I'm gonna make you put that in the email after you hang up the phone. Quit calling me, just email.
Well, no, I call them
Same with
now
us.
because I have to vet them before I like refer my clients to them. So I'll have a conversation on the phone. And it's like, if we agree, it's like, great, I'll send you an email. I'll put in an email, nice talking to you. Here's what's gonna happen. Here's the referral fee agreement.
I've done that with a lot of things where it's after I finish talking on the phone, it's like just so I can verify and have that paper trail email and hey, per our conversation on the phone,
Yep.
this is what we talked about, this is what we agreed on. Does that all sound correct to you? And then they usually, yes.
Get a little buy-in on the other.
That's-
Yeah, you're good to go. Yeah, your attorney
Okay,
loves you.
So basically, he's returning your email saying, yes. I
Yep.
agree.
Verifying that's what
Verifying
we.
You don't have an
And then you
agreement,
sign
but you have an
everything and send
understanding.
it in
Yeah, right.
after.
Yeah.
You still need a form. You do
Yeah.
not have an
Yeah, I know.
enforceable referral yet. Potentially. Now, some of the attorneys are saying, be careful what you put in your email. They're saying that now you can create a contract with an email. If you get the 4 requirements of a contract in a little series of emails, the right attorney is going to take you down for it and make you pay or something. So they're going, all those guys are saying, watch out for the, getting too narrowing stuff down too much in emails without putting something in there about, just as a memorandum of our conversation or to make sure I understand this right before we proceed and go into a formal agreement, something like that. Because I don't know if it started happening down south, all that stuff happens down south, all of it, or in the Bay Area proper. Because there's so much money at stake and there's so many people and so many chances for a foul up. That's what we hear from CAR. And I really would, I'm going to go back to, they're going to be in Monterey. I think it's in January, I forgot when, probably about the 3rd week of January. You can hear Gov Hutchinson ramble for like 4 hours.
I love it.
Thursday night and Friday morning. He's going to be there. He's going to do the CAR member legal update. And then every Friday morning, if they haven't changed the schedule, talking about changing it, he does the realtor risk management. So that 3 times fast. Forum and blah, 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 something. So Gov will reiterate some of the stuff he talked about, remember legal update, and then and do more the next day on Friday. Friday's like a 3-hour meeting or something because they have somebody from every facet of the escrow will get up and talk for 20 minutes. Home inspector guys will get up and talk. In the middle of a lot of changes to pest control stuff, whoever was the head of the Pest Control Association in California would get up and talk. Head of the mortgage bankers would get up and talk.
Maybe we should get a band first.
Good. It's a freaking day trip too. I mean, it's Monterey. Actually, the association used to send a bus. I don't know what happened to that. First time I ever went to CAR business meetings was like 06 or something. I just got in the bus. Then they all come out and meet you. They tour you around.
It was the
a
short
tiny little short bus.
Gary had to throw his helmet
Sorry, it was
on.
too easy.
Special Fred. That's not fair. Stop that right now. That's where I hear all this crap. People say, how do you know that stuff? But I went to those meetings for years. I was on the board for 4 or 5 or something like that. Went to those meetings for probably the better part of 10 years. And especially with the Realtor Risk Management, Member Legal Forum, and the standard forms, forum on forums, there's not much left to learn. And then we were trying to figure out how do Macs work and what will we do with those in the MLS. They created the MLS Business Technology Committee. So on, let's see, on a regular schedule, I'm just going to finish my talk about CAR. I feel like I work for them. On a regularly scheduled CAR business meetings week, Wednesday afternoon. There's no reason to go before about 3 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon, even if you're going to do the whole week, unless you want to hear the zipforms users group, which is like I've never seen anything more basic. It's good if you want basic zip forms information. But about 3:30 or something, they do the member director forum where they kind of line out what's going to happen for the rest of the week, and they talk about every way that CAR wants to get in your pocket this year. They will expose them. Look at this really cool thing we did here. It's only going to cost you a little bit. And you go, I don't think so. Then they vote on it Friday night and Saturday. So member director forum is Wednesday, and then Thursday starts with standard forums at 8:30. And that runs, they allow 3 hours, no, 9 o'clock, 2.5 hours for standard forms. Sometimes they run it all up that long, and sometimes they don't. 1 o'clock is MLS, 2 o'clock is business and technology, if they haven't deviated from the schedule. And about 3:30 or something, whenever those two are over, is member legal forum. Thursday is a bitchin' day to go there. If you're only gonna go for 1 day, go Thursday. If you're gonna do 2 days, like spend the night, spend Thursday night. So you're there for, remember, the realtor risk management, which is all morning Friday morning. And there's other random crap. But at the winter and spring meetings, so it's January and April usually, are really just about laws and what CAR, how CAR wants to figure out how to take your money, and what do you think about it? And you'll hear an hour of what we've done for you lately, trying to justify the dues. It's kind of fun. But it's all just technical, mechanical information. Then the fall meetings, which is usually like October, then they have the expo and they have classes, and it's more like a company convention kind of a thing. So when you don't have a company convention, the CAR expo is a good thing.
So that's in January, so
The business meetings are 3 times a year. The third one in October is the one where they party. The first 2018 business meetings are in January in Monterey. And it's, whatever they're up to, you'll hear about it at those meetings. Whatever they're trying to sell you on, changes coming down the pike. The whole coming soon thing with the REO stuff, that took a year of CAR business meetings to decide that was not an MLS violation. Why it took a year, I don't know. Except that there were charged people on both sides of that question. I kind of remember the deal. So we did a referral agreement, right? We're okay with that. There's a time limit on here. And everything, you can always change pre-printed stuff, but when you're doing this thing and you're wondering like, I wonder how long this referral is good for, the default is a year. And you refer them in there, whether they buy or sell. You can check both boxes. They're not mutually exclusive. So you could say, I'm referring you this seller in Long Beach who's going to buy in Long Beach. I'm in every one of those deals as we go. I'm putting it right here. You pay me every time. My sister-in-law finally made the agent that I was referring her to finally said, I just about had enough of paying you. Just stop. She says, I'm giving your sister-in-law to somebody else in the office. You now work with Andy. Okay, fine. Whatever. Because she went to do new construction. So I hit her like I was getting in her pocket for like the 5th time. She's like, oh my God, when does that woman become my client? Never. That's my client. I'm referring my client. That does not become your client ever until my client fires me. Then, then take your shot. But that's not going to happen. Just so we're clear.
Especially if it's your sister.
Yeah, well, with family, it's like you can lose them easy. It's like,
So what time frame did you have on that?
12 months.
within 12 months, right there. Oh, I gave her a new referral every deal. Because for some reason, my sister-in-law all of a sudden couldn't get happy. Like, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell.
Wow.
So finally with Susan Gates, she's like, oh my God, stop. Okay. But it wasn't because she was like tired of getting paid. She was going to go sell new construction. But I thought that was funny because she would always like challenge me, like from the second one on. She'd go, you sure, things haven't changed? I'm positive. Things have not changed. I didn't get a divorce. That would change that. Maybe not. Maybe my sister-in-law likes me better than my wife does. That's an easy lead, right? Linda?
Can you go over the COP and the SPRP?
Oh, God. Why, certainly. Okay, so is the COP considered to be by even CAR a problematic form? Yes, it
Yes.
is, because look what happened. We have another new one. So apparently they did launch them. Where is my 1217 update in my dropdown? What is up with that? Damn it. So let's talk about a form that I have not looked at at all. Right? So what's a COP form? When do you use it? I had more coffee.
The buyer has a house. So
Yeah,
so that makes stuff for it.
Buyer has a house. Would you? Yeah. Why don't you just give me yours?
I got you.
What?
Throw your ball and beat it.
Did I just see that?
He thinks he's gonna go talk about it.
Huh.
That's me, no, yeah, I spilled my coffee when I, yeah, have another. Yeah. COP, when a buyer has a house to sell, right? When a buyer has a house to sell and the deal is contingent on the buyer selling that house. And there are, which causes all the problems with this form, moving parts in the buyer's sale, right? So there are things that you're hoping the buyer does, like list it, get it in escrow, you know, close the escrow, all that kind of stuff. And this thing is littered with check boxes to pick and choose between all those contingencies and stuff. So 1A is probably something that, you know, because it's such an evolved form and has so many check boxes, everybody like just goes right down to about like paragraph 2 and starts working on it. Skipping paragraph 1 that says 1A, length of contingency, how long does this last? I've seen agents come to me and argue with me about it's the 17 days I need to notice them to lift the house sale contingency. No, you cannot. I mean, if they didn't write it that way, the way the forms, the default forms are written, this agreement, the agreement that is referenced in the recital is contingent on the close of escrow of buyer's property described as buyer's house he's trying to sell by the earliest of the scheduled close of escrow of seller's property specified in the agreement that this is attached to, or the date specified in paragraph 3, which says when I'm supposed to close escrow on my house as the buyer. Other compose away, right? But remember, there's only one line because we hate it when you write. Continuation of contingency. This, the interesting part to think about, or an interesting part of the COP form, there, is it's virtually self-contained. It has its own continuation of contingency paragraph, its own cancellation rights and all that stuff in the form. It doesn't necessarily harken back to the purchase agreement. So the purchase agreement says, hey, the buyer has 17 days to do all this junk. Yeah, no. This thing is, everything is on here telling everybody what we're doing with selling that buyer's house. Black? Man.
Take the last of it so it's not all the way full. Is that a wait for him to make more, which is?
You got it for free. I think you're supposed to say thank you.
Pardon, thank you. Please and thank you, please and thank you, please and thank you are polite.
Now Gary and I are squared.
It is hot.
Yeah, right. 45 lunches and 1.5
And a
cup of
Vegas
coffee.
trip.
Hey, what happened in Vegas stays in Vegas. I almost want to tell you some of the stuff that happened in Vegas. It was so cute. It was so cute. Dance with your mother. It was so cute. B, continuation. Contingency can only be removed in writing. Duh, right? Hello, there's a bird shaking. I'm not aware that we have verbal contingency removal anywhere in the RPA anyway. Right? Even if buyer removes this contingency, unless buyer also performs all actions pursuant to paragraph 8, which isn't even on this screen yet, it's such a long form, seller retains the right to cancel under paragraph 5. Once buyer's property closes, buyer can no longer use this contingency to cancel the agreement because you satisfied the contingency. That does happen with contingencies where they say, well, we can always get on the loan contingency. Yeah, afraid not. You signed docs. That's not what?
That's not
Acting in good faith. That's not good faith. That's you're trying to pull some crap. That's not good faith. All parties to the contracts, according to the way CAR writes them, and contract law in general, have a duty of good faith.
It's still hot.
Your lid's not on.
Well, I got it for free. What do you want? Better. Huh? Better? Jesus Christ, you saw that?
How could I not? It was
Can you read this? Just handle this one? So, yeah, let's talk about well, what do you want to talk about on this? I got a couple of things I really want to hit. Linda, do you have specific questions you want that are especially
No, you go ahead.
problematic? Okay.
Okay, so what's this form used for?
Oh, you went out for coffee.
That's right, you went out for coffee. I'm sorry. When a buyer has a house to sell, right? The buyer in a purchase agreement has a house to sell, and the purchase agreement that buyer wrote, you wrote on that buyer's, is contingent upon this house selling. Because it doesn't have to be. I mean, you can say, your buyer could say, well, I'm going to sell Main Street and 4th Street and 3rd Street, blah, 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 and I'm going to buy 18th Street, you know, and like, are those all like, what are you doing? I don't worry about it. I have too much money. I don't know what to do. I'm not even doing exchanges because I want to pay tax, whatever. It doesn't necessarily, just because your buyer's selling a house doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make the deal contingent on selling that house. But that's definitely a conversation you want to have, right? Because it's like, yeah, so we want to buy this house. Or great. How are you planning on financing that investment? Well, we're going to sell our house. Okay, do you need to get the money out of that house to buy this house? And they're like, duh. Okay, we can take care of that. We can handle that for you. I have a form that will protect you there in case that deal doesn't work, which is why sellers love contingent escrow.
So when do you bring this in? Is it when you go and list the buyer's house, or when you go and write the offer for the new house?
So what contract does this refer to? What contract is this part of? It's a purchase contract, not part of a listing agreement.
But he missed the part. There's
Does that
different
answer the
check
question?
boxes as to whether the house has been listed, is in escrow.
Okay. Yes, right. Okay, so length contingent, continuation, blah, blah, we'll talk about the cancellation rights. 2 and 3 is like, so what's going on there? Is your house listed? Like, is it in escrow? What's up? The thing that I've had to go to escrow, and I think we talked about this before, to get before is the escrow evidence. Like when you're representing the seller, right, and the buyer's got a house sale contingency, if they're in escrow or when they're in escrow, you're supposed to get every single page of every single document from their escrow so that they can't go, everything's great. And that's when you find out that their escrow is actually contingent on somebody else selling a house. I've seen that before after incredible deposition and stuff of the people that were hiding it in the deal. We went 4 deep one time with the lady who shall remain nameless. Like, had to find out, wait, well, this whole thing is hinged on a house in Taft and a mobile home in Mesa Dunes and then another house in Grover. Like, wait, what? Did anyone know that? Yeah. Lady that wrote the offer to me did. She knew the whole domino thing. Didn't say a word.
So do you ask that agent, or do you get it from escrow? You would ask the agent.
The only reason I've been getting it from escrow is agents go, I'm not doing that. All right, you know what? You don't have to.
Okay, but you would
can't
first ask
escrow
the
give
agent.
that to some people?
Oh, yeah, well, the agent owes it to you.
Yeah,
And, you know, if they know what they're doing, they're kicking down, right? If they don't know what they're doing, then you educate them, you bring them along. They have 5 days, if they're in escrow, 5 days from your purchase agreement, from when, you know, the house that you're representing the seller on, or they have 5 days after they get in escrow if they're not in escrow yet. But within 5 days of them opening escrow, or either opening one of the 2 escrows, they owe you the entire file. You're never going to get the entire file. I mean, what agent knows where the entire file is? It's like, I think, call Angie. I don't know.
So that is only if you accepted the buyer's agreements. That you are able to get all the escrow information.
Right.
from
So
the buyer.
if you're representing the seller and they're selling a house and this is your buyer, you're in the deal with this buyer. If this is not your buyer, who cares?
Of course.
You're right. Zachary. Okay, so 2, buyer's property not in escrow. Buyer's property is not now in escrow. Where's the listing thing? Oh, right there. Buyer's property is not now. Everybody following? And number 2, is it pretty focused enough? Yeah. What about me? Okay, buyer's property not in escrow. Buyer's property is not in bold, now in escrow, and there's some boxes to check. Is or is not yet listed for sale. So for crying out loud, listed buyer, I mean, God, that doesn't cost you. You trying to move or not? Is or is not listed for sale, listing broker is, MLS number is, you know, so you can just go see. It's like, oh, they've got a PUD in South Grover listed for $750. Like, this is never gonna fly. That's why you have all that information. You can advise your seller on, I think they're high, are you willing to wait? That kind of thing. 2B, buyer has 17 days to enter into escrow for the sale of buyer's property. Buyer shall, within the time specified, provide seller with copies of the contract, escrow instructions, and all related documents hereinafter called escrow evidence, which is what those parentheses mean. And when you title it like that, showing the buyer's property has entered escrow, and that's like in no uncertain terms. You got to accept the contract, you got escrow instructions, you got the whole 9 yards. So paragraph 2B is kind of important because why?
That shows that they owe you all the documents.
Well, because of the 17 days. It creates a cancellation right for the seller. If they're not in escrow in 17 days, you can kick them to the curb. Or not.
But you don't have to.
You don't have to. But you don't have to. Buyer's property in it. Sorry.
I'm just gonna, sometimes you have two that aren't even listed yet that have to get sold. That's why.
These things can happen. Broker listing agent's gonna get it together. 3. So it's one or the other, right? These are mutually exclusive. Either you're gonna escrow or you're not. You know. In fact, let's see what happens. The form is not mutually exclusive. Okay, so we got to keep an eye on those checkboxes. A lot of these forms are mutually exclusive. Like if it's 2 or 3, when you check 3, it unchecks 2. That didn't happen. Paragraph 3, buyer's property is in escrow and escrow is scheduled to close on, give you the close date. Don't make it up because you got to give me the contract and the escrow instructions, right? Do they? They do, right? Escrow holder is that, escrow number is that, buyer shall within 5 days after acceptance deliver to seller escrow evidence defined earlier in the agreement. The buyer's property is in escrow. And what is escrow evidence and where do we go to find that out? And what paragraph do we go to teach other agents what escrow evidence is? 2B. 2B. That easy to remember? Right? 2B or not 2B? That is the question, right? Paragraph 4 and 5. Can I get my seller out of this deal? Yeah, there's a chance here. Okay, buyer, you got some stuff you're supposed to do. Are you doing it? And then, you know, seller's market, kind of a hotter market. Listing agent has to be on top of seller cancellation rights because they don't have to. Buyer's got cancellation rights coming out the wazoo, but the seller, not so much. Hard to get a seller out of a deal. When the buyer has put a little chink in the deal's armor with a contingency of closing escrow on a house they're trying to sell, the seller gets a few more cancellation rights relative to the sale of their house. If buyer's property, and this is another one too, it's like you got to be on top of this actually, because you know, agents are ever hopeful, right? It's like, oh, my deal canceled, but I know I'm gonna get it back together. Just don't say anything to the other guys. Just give me over the weekend here. I'm just saying, right? Cancellation of buyer's property. So buyer's property is the house buyer's trying to sell, or if buyer's property is in or enters escrow and either party to that escrow gives notice to the other, it hasn't canceled yet, we got a cancellation notice, didn't even cancel yet. As soon as somebody says, you know what, I might want to cancel this, I am proposing a cancellation, buyer has within 2 days shall give seller written notice of that notice of cancellation. It didn't cancel, but you have to tell them like, we hit like a snag, and I don't know why they're being so hardcore, but they're thinking about canceling, but so I need to tell you that, but I also need to tell you I got this. Because he just lost 2 deals. Oops. It's like $1 million right in this market, 500, $1 million. What kind of sound that makes when it hits? Breaking glass? Breaking hearts.
Hitting the floor.
No one knows that here. It's like, oh my God, you have to tell me that. No, I don't. Can you read? Anyway. Paragraph 5, seller's cancellation rights. Paragraph 5, nice big paragraph. Buyer's cancellation right. That's the way we like it when we're representing the seller. Buyer's got a cancellation right if he's careful. Seller's got a few. 5A, seller may cancel the agreement in writing as follows. 5A, after first giving buyer a notice to buyer to perform, to provide documentation to close the buyer's property. Buyer's property does not close escrow by the time specified in paragraph 1. Paragraph 1 where it says my property is in escrow, scheduled to close certain date. And there's 3 different options in paragraph 1. You may or may not recall it. Let's go back and read the form. So if the buyer musts that, seller can give them a notice to cancel or a notice to perform and then boot them in 2 days. After first giving buyer a notice to buyer to perform, if buyer fails to provide escrow evidence, if you don't get your escrow evidence in 2 days, kick them out. At the end of the 5, they have 5 days to give you the escrow evidence per the default in form. If they don't do that, you can toss them. I have always just gone straight to escrow with it, and I've never been turned down. They will grill you on why are you asking for that. They want to hear that you know how this works because they know now how it works. They've done it.
Do you send escrow this document?
That's part of the contract. Why would you not? Right? This is part of your agreement. This has to
No,
go
I
to
meant
escrow.
when you're trying to go get,
This has to go to escrow when you open the escrow.
not your escrow. If you're trying to go get the escrow evidence from, they're
Come
not.
from the other one?
Yeah, do you go, hey, look, I
Yeah,
need this information.
I'm right. I'm with you. Yeah.
emailing
I got a
this form.
COP here. Right. Yep. Yep. And if they think they need to see it, it's like, they don't really. I told you, I got a COP. I mean, duh, right? What does your escrow say? SPRP maybe, right? But yeah, right. Yeah. Good question. I've got this CRP in my escrow over here. Here's everybody's signature. So I need that escrow evidence from your seller in that other escrow, whose name and property address is at the top of this form. Yes, right, yep. Sorry. Listen to the question. 5C, if buyer gives notice to seller of either party's cancellation of contract for buyer's property, what does it not say there in 5C that it said in A and B? And it starts with after first. A says after first giving buyer a notice to buyer to perform. B says after first giving the buyer a notice to buyer to perform. C says if buyer gives notice to seller of either party's cancellation of contract, cancel. If that's the right thing to do. There is no notice to perform in 5C, right? There is no notice to perform in 5D. If buyer, after being given a notice to remove contingencies, fails to remove the contingencies specified in 8A, and you'll see why it didn't say notice to buyer to perform, because there's a notice to remove contingencies at the bottom of this form. This form is virtually self-contained. I'll let that sink in.
So Gary, if you,
I knew there'd be a question. How come they're not? Like, what?
okay, so if you're working with a buyer and they have a home to sell, and their agent gets it into escrow, at what point, and would it be appropriate to make a note on, to have that agent make a note on their listing that that sale is contingent upon the buyers finding another home? I know that's typically done with a 1031, but could you do that for anything?
What a segue, right? We have a form for that. It's called the SPRP, Seller's Purchase or Replacement Property. Yeah, now should you put that in the MLF? I don't know. I mean, you're trying to sell their house, right? I mean, the listing agent is trying to sell.
My buyer's house,
Well, how come you don't have a listing?
because it's in San Diego.
It's in another town. Okay, get that right. Otherwise, you have a listing.
Okay.
Really? Yeah, that happens. You'll see that in the MLS a lot. Subject to seller finding suitable replacement property. Yeah, That's basically word for word what you're gonna see in the MLS. That's very common. Because you want to level the playing field, you want the public to know, you want the agents to know. It's like, yeah, we'll open escrow with you, but we might, if we can't do this deal over here up in Pismo, we're not closing the San Diego deal and you're out, buddy.
Now, the agent down there, she may not be very amiable to that. Should I discuss that with my buyers?
She may not be amiable. You mean the listing agent?
For their home.
Their agent that's selling their house may not be amicable or amiable to protecting her client's interest. I'd get another agent.
Because I mean, it might make it more challenging for her to sell.
Might make it real challenging in case this Pismo deal doesn't work.
Yeah,
And those
challenging
people all
for the
sitting
buyer
there
that's
homeless,
trying
that's
to-
horse manure. I mean, that's just
So
bad
would you-
business, baby.
Would you recommend doing that?
Do it what?
Recommend her doing that, recommend the San Diego agent putting in the MLS subject to buyers finding suitable replacement property.
Yes.
What I can't tell you is if that's an MLS rule. I'm not sure it is. You're gonna see it a lot. It's very common. And what you're also gonna see, like, let's say she's selling their house in San Diego, you got them in escrow in Pismo, you're gonna see in there subject to seller finding suitable replacement property. Seller is in escrow on replacement property, that solves all of her problems. Pretty much. Her buyer down there, the buyer coming in to buy her buyer's house, has a pretty high level of confidence that whole thing's gonna work. Will it hamper you a little bit? Yeah, probably, I guess. You know, does the truth hurt at times? Yes. I don't know, what do you guys think about that? That's one for the open forum round table. Do it or not?
Yes.
Always disclose.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think I disclosed in the MLS. I think I just definitely disclosed the disclosure.
In the contract? Yeah, you put an SPRP form in the contract, make sure everybody knows that, but it's so I guess probably the discussion is, so it might hamper the listing agent's ability to sell that house, right?
Exactly.
Why?
Exactly, yeah. That's what I-
Because she told the truth about something that might change somebody's mind.
Why would you waste the people's time though? It's like if they don't know and they come in and then they find out. it's-
Oh my God, Susie, my buyers love this house. They can't wait to move in. How fast can you get out? Hang on, Ethel.
Yeah.
We were trying to close escrow and because why the hell didn't you tell me that? We would have just
Exactly.
bought something else. And we were gonna make an offer on your house or this house and they like your house better and now we lost that house. You're gonna get some hate mail? You bet you.
I've had some though where like I was looking for homes for a buyer and I'll call the other agent, hey, we're interested in this house, wanna go see it? And then they go, oh, great, just to let you know that it's contingent upon them finding a replacement property. And then they tell me over the phone versus having it in the MLS. But I've seen a lot of them where it says right in the MLS,
Right in the MLS.
contingent upon
Right.
replacement property.
Now, part of the reason they'll put that in the MLS is to soothe the seller's fears, kind of assuage them or whatever the right word for that is. Because the seller goes, well, I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to get caught short. Look, I'll handle the whole thing. I'll even put it right in the MLS. You don't close escrow in San Diego until you're pretty happy that you're moving up there. The SPRP allows for the closing of the Pismo escrow.
So it's your call. It's not an MLS rule.
I don't think it's a rule. I mean, MLS rules are getting bigger and fatter all the time, all based on the CAR model rules, but you only have to adopt the ones you want. So every board has different rules.
There's another question or another scenario. It's happened to me, they were trying to buy another property, but it was in Texas. So we were ready to close 2 weeks before, and it said in the paperwork, we could close sooner than the actual amount of time we had, and it was in writing. So, I mean, wouldn't it be best if they, like you said, I guess they sell their house, but they need to move, and they can't move if they don't have everything scheduled to be able to move. But my buyers were ready to close,
And the sellers weren't
and the
leaving.
sellers weren't able to move. They wanted 7 days to stay after the closing. They said, no, we can't give you 7 days free. So we decided just a couple of days. I'm sorry? Yeah, no, I understand. But I mean, when it's stated that they were able to go sooner, but then again, they came back and they said, no, they can't because they had rescheduled their packing,
So do
for the
things change?
movers. Can't they?
Things change. Things can change. things can change and you can just rewrite the deal on an amendment or an addendum or something and just
Oh,
change it. If
addendum.
everybody's okay, just change it.
Yeah, but they don't have
Yeah,
to,
right.
just because you could close earlier doesn't mean they have to go
Yeah,
out
exactly,
earlier.
that's what I was saying.
Yeah, if the buyers are ready, it's like, well, I just
Yeah.
did that and the buyer was ready to close Halloween and we closed it on the 7th of December because that's when the seller was ready to make things happen.
Yeah, that
You
was.
just sit on
the
it, buyer.
Okay, just sit on it and see, that's the
Pretty
thing.
much. I mean, there's no sense not to talk to the other guys. Like, hey, like, we're just so you know, where things really rocked along here. We're ready to go. Can you guys take our money?
Mhm.
No,
Yeah,
we can't.
they
Okay,
wanna
then you
take
just
the
have to
money.
wait.
But if it's a far thing, it's harder, right? But if it's local, then they could easily rent like a hotel, that's what I'm saying, like they could close and they have their stuff out.
If they agree, no,
If they
if,
agree.
so like if you've gone past the closing date or something, you could issue a demand to close, that kind of stuff. If you're still within the escrow period of your contract, you really don't have any rights to push them around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if it says 30 days or sooner, they've got 30.
Yeah, okay.
And if the last day is a Saturday or a Sunday or a holiday, it just keeps
It
moving.
keeps pushing, exactly.
Yep, exactly. So let's get to the hard part here, right? 8, backup offers and seller right to have, let's look at the time periods for a minute, because now I want to know what these say. Yeah, see how this thing is? That's the way the SPRP used to be, and then they changed it. It doesn't match a COP anymore. Time periods in the agreement for inspections, contingencies, covenants, close of escrow, and other obligations shall begin as specified in the agreement. Which
agreement?
for the one that this guy is a buyer on, not the one that he's selling his house. Or on the day after buyer delivers to seller any of the following: escrow evidence, buyer's election in writing to begin time periods, buyer's removal of contingencies for sale of buyer's property. Maybe they don't want to do all their inspections and all that junk until they get their house in escrow. You can make this form say that, but you have to change it with check boxes to make it say that. Same with the deposit. Deposit is either now or if you check the box after those guys decide they're ready to put their deposit. That's like the old short sale form used to be, just like that. Backup offers and seller right to have buyer remove contingencies or cancel. So the key to this form is after acceptance, so after the seller accepts the buyer's offer, seller shall have the right to continue to offer seller's property for sale for backup offers. Right? If, this is the key to this entire paragraph, if seller accepts a written backup offer and provides buyer a copy of the signed accepted backup offer, then seller can notice the buyer to get out. But all that stuff's gotta happen. You accept an offer and you gotta show the buyer that you've accepted the offer. That's probably new language to remember to be.
Because people lie.
People lie. Sales will lie. And we all know what it takes to actually have an accepted backup offer, right? All negotiated out, all signed up, backup offer addendum, all signed up. You have a deal, subject to cancellation of the first place deal. Just because somebody wrote you an offer does not mean you have an accepted backup. Each.
And you have so many days after, that backup offer can be canceled also as a certain.
So how do backup offers work? Yeah. So in the backup offer addendum, that stuff's all written out. All the days, all that stuff is in the backup offer addendum. The backup buyer can pull that offer just because it's Tuesday. You know what? We found something else to buy. Back, see it, back. There is a certain amount of days down there for the seller to pull the plug on the backup. I want to make sure that line's filled in. I get it blank all the time. All the time. It's like, okay, so what is it now? Never or forever? It's impossible to tell. It doesn't say anything. It's like blank days, blank dates, which is probably never, I guess. No days would be never. So the seller can't tell the buyer to get out under paragraph 8 of this form unless they have an accepted written backup offer. I just kind of want to just drive that home. So there's your notification rights, and then your delayed same notification rights. You have the right to give them a 3-day notice. With delayed right to notify in 8B, you wait a little bit and then you give them a 3-day notice. So your you have a 3-day notice to tell the buyer, like, waive your house sale contingency and your financing contingency and whatever else I think I can come up with, and you can stay in. And they have 3 days to figure that out, the way this thing's written, right? 3 or blank. The notice is a 3-day notice. You can delay the delivery of the 3-day notice if that's what people want. Now you'll see that the buyer's agent is crafting this form, right, and they're sending it with the offer. So they're very often going to check 8B, which says delayed right to notify. Seller shall not invoke the 3-day notice within the first 17 or blank days after acceptance. So maybe you're writing this, you're telling the seller, I want a couple of weeks to like get rolling on this thing, or get it listed, get everything going, get in escrow. So I'm going to kind of get rolling. We're going to see how we feel about it. Or maybe I'm in escrow and I want to get 17 days into my escrow to see if I'm comfortable waiving my house sale contingency. So if you accept a written backup offer, you don't get to give me that 3-day notice to beat it until we've been together for 17 days or whatever you write it. Got beach? Ready. After delivery of that 3-day notice, seller may then immediately cancel the agreement in writing, and the notice to remove the contingency is right at the bottom of this form. I don't know about that. I think they should have just stuck it in the contingency removal. In fact, I think it might be in the contingency removal too, because it has to reference the form for some of the other actions of the form. That's why it's there. Questions on it?
On 8B, generally, as representing the seller, you get this from the buyer, and they'll mark that during the term of the agreement. Watch that.
Yeah, watch that. Yeah, that's because I've never stopped doing that. Just so you know.
Yeah, if you get an offer from Jerry, you better check.
It's like, it actually makes it work like the SPRP. The SPRP says, I don't care how long this takes, I will close on my replacement property or you will get out of my escrow. I just put the shoe on the other foot. I will close escrow on my house. I don't care if it takes 2 months. If I've got a 60-day escrow in here, then the delayed right to notify, the seller has to wait to notify me through the term of the agreement. You can never give me the 3-day notice is what that means. So yeah, Bob's right. Watch out for that. Boy, your seller is going to be like, hey, when Bob and Trudy next door sold, their buyer had a little trouble with selling their house. They got rid of them. They got a new guy. They packed up and moved there in Florida. Like, how come we can't get rid of our guy? Because I really wouldn't pay any attention. So you got it, because I wasn't paying any attention because I didn't have any idea what the hell I'm doing. Hey, they're nice though, right?
Your seller's going to be upset.
Your seller is going to just, oh my God. Yep, you just lost your list. Yeah.
I don't even know why.
Oh, wait a minute, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Why would you take a listing away from me now that I know what I'm doing? You're going to take a chance on the next guy being this stupid? How does that make any sense? Oh, Gary, you're right. That's an excellent. Said no one ever. Okay, I have 10 more minutes, right? Okay, we're only gonna, as Linda said so. I don't know why we don't just do this all the time.
Hey, I brought a cake in for David.
Okay.
Okay, shoes on the other foot, so to speak. Might be the same guy, right? The San Diego seller needs to close escrow in Pismo or he's going to get rid of his buyer, right? And hopefully his buyer doesn't have a COP, whose buyer doesn't have a COP, whose buyer doesn't have a COP. I kid you not. We found that out. I had to actually drive to drive to Taft to check on that escrow. It's terrible. SPRP, seller's purchase of replacement property. Used to be part of the COP, always going back to the old days. They finally gave it its own form because all that crap was in the COP, which made the font like that. 1A, the agreement is contingent on seller entering into contract to acquire replacement property. Now you're the seller here, right? This is the seller tells the buyer, hey buyer, your ability to purchase my house is contingent on me entering into a contract to acquire replacement property finding replacement property contingency, and seller shall within 17 days after acceptance remove that contingency or cancel the agreement if that's the way you want to go. That's an option the seller can say, I'm going to take a little time to go find a house, and in 17 days, I'm going to tell you how I'm doing. And if I'm not doing very well, I'm canceling your deal and you're going back to buy the house you probably should have bought in the first place. But it's already done, so too bad for you. 1B, seller has entered into a contract to acquire a replacement property. Yay, go seller, right? Escrow holder is, now it looks like the COP. I'm telling you where my stuff is, blah, blah, blah. I'm in escrow, feeling pretty good about that, just so you know. Doesn't mean I'm doing anything about it, just means I'm in escrow. Or C, if checked, this agreement is contingent on seller's ability to close escrow on that replacement property according to that contract. So not only have I entered into escrow, I'm closing that escrow or you're out of here. So you will not know if you're buying my house for quite a while. If I've just done all this today, now we have two 45-day escrows that are gonna run parallel, and one of them has the entire 45 days of the other to fall apart. So you're right, that may dissuade some buyers. But if it was you have actually the disclosure laws are a material fact that would change a buyer's mind. So if you think you tell somebody after the fact and their response is gonna be, what the hell, maybe you should tell them up front. Might be what they say, I don't know. Or they might go, no, we're good, we're good. Noah's buyer go, oh, we're cool. It's all good. Hey, let us know, man. It's all good. 2A, the exact opposite of the COP. No, why did you do that? Time periods in the agreement for inspection, contingencies, covenants, close of escrow, and other obligations commenced date shall begin the day after seller delivers to buyer a written notice that I'm good on this end. Or if you check the box, we'll start the way we told them. COP says all the time periods will start today, unless I check the box to say they're not starting for a while. This one says none of the time periods will start today unless I check the box that says they're going to start now. I don't know what in the hell they were thinking when they did that. No idea. And that's something to say at the forum on forums at about 9 o'clock on January, about 17th or something. There's a microphone right in there. It's like, hey, I just need to know what in that. And then that way they kind of remember that you have an issue.
So the time periods don't change if you check that little box right there?
Time period, everything changes when you check boxes, right? That's how we change these forms. We check boxes and we eliminate the foregoing and then we apply the preceding, right? No, the succeeding. So it says time periods in the agreement shall begin after seller delivers to buyer a notice of removing the final replacement property contingency, right? Or check the box, remain as specified in the agreement. If close of escrow is identified as a specific date in the agreement, it shall remain on that date. That's probably more than you need to hear. You don't change the close of escrow when you check this box. The time periods for everything, including the close of escrow, the default in this thing, nothing starts. If you write an offer to a seller that's using this form, you have a 30-day escrow, your 30 days might not start for 3 weeks. Your buyer needs to know, wait, don't pack. Put that back.
Don't get the termite guy out just yet.
Better get that teddy bear out of that overnight bag, because that kitty is going to be looking for that in about a month. Right? Just saying. Buyer's deposit shall be delivered to escrow within 3 business days after seller delivers to buyer a notice removing the contingency, or right up front, like it says in the agreement. The exact opposite of the COP. Buyer and seller agree that seller may extend the close of escrow date for the sale of seller's property for a maximum of blank additional days or until a blank date. By providing buyer with written notice, the tax seller removes the contingency that, hey, it took me longer than I thought, and now I'm in a 30-day escrow, so we're just pushing this whole deal back. Okay, well, you kind of screwed now, you might as well say yes. Any questions on that? Slightly more clear form, except for the stupid time period thing, and how that works, and when we might use that. Clear as mud, clear as mud. Pure as the driven snow.
Okay. What would the other space and farm where it says the other terms, what would you put in there? What would be different?
We discourage you actually from writing it. Sand. Because why do we always discourage, why does CAR legal always discourage people? You're practicing law. You are writing contract language. They really do not want you to do that. They want you to pick from the language they've given you already. But who knows? There could be something in there that this form just doesn't address. That's why they always put other terms, but they never make it more than about 3 lines, just so that you're gonna have to really squash it down. And if you really want to get verbose, whenever I do that in the other terms section, I'll put 3 asterisks, all caps, C attached addendum, and 3 more asterisks. Like, look here, right here, there's an addendum. Because there's nowhere to attach an addendum. Also, for the same reason, we certainly don't want you writing 1,000 words about what you think should happen. But you can attach addendum.
Overflow.
Pardon?
Is that why they took the overflow text agenda?
Probably to keep people from being verbose, right? Because they're going, oh my God, just stop. We have 3 million forms. Find a form that fits, check the boxes, and stop writing. Other terms could be like, the whole thing is also contingent on a job transfer, maybe. And that's all I can think of right off the top of the brain. But yeah, just don't be afraid to get some help. Don't be afraid to have a second set of eyes. Don't be afraid to learn how to use the collaborating feature. And zipforms, which the Temple lady will tell you all about zipforms. I don't use software, she does. But only when she wants to. Okay, is that it? Any questions? We're all good. We got 11 and 10, just like clockwork. Close at the same time. So thanks everybody for the past 6 months or 4 months or whatever the hell we've been doing this for. And Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
No training.
Take a little time off. No training for the rest of this year.
It's gonna start again in January.
And during that time, I'll decide whether I'm coming back or not. I mean, I may want to renegotiate. I'll do it for Kate.
Something versus nothing.
So yeah, take some time off, but not much, because you're missing a hot time of the year, right? First $1 million offer I ever wrote was what day?
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve. Have I ever sold a house on Christmas Day? Yes. 2 deals right there. That's why I would have been. If I would have been actually having a life, David, we got that money. Damn it, it's all about money, damn it.
Hell, he likes the cherries. Like cherry
So,
bomb.
what do you need to have a life? Money. Money, baby. Nobody has a lighter anymore, right?
Oh, wait. Still got it.
My car actually still has a cigarette lighter.
Oh, no kidding. Hey, bye everybody on the webinar thing, whoever you are and whoever you were. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you did, and I hope something.
It's hard.
And I hope that I don't talk so fast that you can't hear a thing I'm saying on the webinar, because I can't, especially when I'm reading this. And all you people that are on the webinar, too bad, no cake.
Is
All right, where's David?
Does anyone?
I don't know.
Did you stop the recording?
I don't know.
Anybody have a lighter?
Same, I have one.
Why share more?
NAD?
There you go. NAD for all.